Everybody, welcome. It's been a huge night for the Trump National Re-Election Committee, a convention. I cannot call it an Republican National Committee Convention, RNC, because unfortunately the Republican Party didn't even roll out an agenda other than re-electing President Trump. The literal theme is Trump 2020 or re-elect Trump 2020. So I can't call it a Republican National Convention, but I most certainly can call it the Trump re-election campaign committee presentation. DeAndre, you watched from beginning to end. I was able to watch a large portion of it, including some highlights. I am dying to know what your thoughts are before I give any commentary on the three key pieces that I saw. And I will tell you, I saw Nikki Haley, I saw Don Jr., and then I saw Senator Tim Scott. Those are the three parts that I was able to catch, and I have a lot to say. So we'll start with you, my brother, and you can take it away.
All right. So I have a lot about those three you just said, too, which I'm going to save those for when we get there. But tonight, from everything from, again, the signage that said Trump 2020, some said Trump 2020, then some said Trump Pence. But in essence, it was very clear this was Trump's. One of the things that the chairwoman, it was interesting to me that she made it clear is that, she said, when I quote, in the 4 years that I have worked, I've done this work for the president. When the chairman of the DNC, of that party, the particular party, works for the party, not necessarily specifically for the president. And so that's number one that kind of irritated me and bothered me. The second thing is the fact, now let me go back. If I have to give them a kudos for anything, I will say that from the production level, it was better from the production level. I'll give them that. As far as the transitions and so forth and so forth, I'll give you that. But you also understand he is a reality TV, and so you clearly know he's going to get that. Then of course you saw everything was it's almost like you're in a movie theater because you saw these trailers every 2 seconds, and for the Democratic side you saw heartfelt stories, and these were trailers. Like you're going to a movie. It's like blah blah. You also heard deliberate attacks towards Democrats, but it really brought no clear policy. There was really no clear essence. It was the "We Love Trump" show, and this is what the Republican Party is going to do. So everything was about. It was almost like the Republican Party was trying to sell this concept about how we have to. They're trying. It's almost like they're trying to sell themselves, sell themselves to believe this is why we're supporting this man. And so there was just so many other things. We can just keep going.
Here's the bottom line. They did a good job. The Republican Party, and let me rephrase. The Trump re-election campaign did a good job. The production was solid. They capitalized on the Democrats' shortcomings with their convention, which was extremely inclusive, which was a good thing, but so much so that it probably led to a reduced production value, that you had so many moving parts trying to bring it together, trying to make it work. We talked about that last week when we critiqued the Republican National Convention. The Democratic National Convention. The production was lackluster, and it was much easier tonight to follow. It was easier to follow, and exactly as Samantha said, that they spoke as though there was an actual audience present. And so people who were watching could just focus in on the message. There were no distractions. And guess what? People had time to make compelling points, which was somewhat of a shortcoming in the actual DNC, is that many people in retrospect, in critical areas and commentary, talked about it was very short on plan and policy. You said, DeAndre, that tonight's speeches were also very short in policy and very short in actual meat. They were, but I don't know if the average Republican watching is going to note that or even care.
And maybe not.
Because let me tell you, every speaker tonight said exactly what those talking points, those buzzwords, those consistent foolish Fox News attacks about liberal media. They nailed every single point. They nailed it. I mean, I could not have been paid $1 million to give a better speech than what was delivered tonight by Don John Jr. The speech was flawless. He looked like he was high off cocaine, like he had done 26 bumps starting that morning and just finished. But the speech itself, flawless.
Now, are we saying flawless from the sense of they spoke to
the rhetoric?
Race?
So as an English teacher, I look at the words, I look at the language, I looked at what he was doing. I noticed in his speech how he was appealing to the base. I noticed in his speech how he was also trying to wrap out those independents and undecided voters. He went in with a clear message and a clear goal. And he said, this is what my base wants to hear. This is what those undecided people have a problem with. I know they're not happy about Black Lives Matter and how we responded to it. So let me address it. But I also know that the voter that I'm trying to bring in is also very unpleased with defund the police. So let me hit that as well. Those moments were consistent throughout his speech, and it broke my heart.
But I will say that in that, I think to that point, that's also going to be the detriment, only because of the fact, because now what you're doing is you're putting out positions that's now going to have those individuals who are maybe bipartisan organizations who are looking to, again, because you have people like, for instance, it just came out today that Michael Steele has joined the group of Republicans. I guess the Lincoln, I can't remember the exact name of it.
Yeah, the Lincoln Project.
Yeah, they are other Republicans who are coming out and saying, we're doing an anti-Trump election. So you're about to have these organizations such as those now dig deeper into what people like a Donald Trump Jr. is saying and saying, listen, it was a good speech, wonderful. But there were some things you said in there that, we want to correct, because you have those undecided people who are, looking for something. One of those things included but not limited to, he tried to say in there, I'm not even going there with Vernon Jones because I have so many things I could say about him.
We hate him.
Yeah, I can't even touch that.
We'll go to Vernon in a moment, though we got to talk about him because Corinthia is not, there are people who are watching who may not be familiar with Vernon Jones and they need to know the backstory. Let me say, Vernon Jones was a highly regarded and respected member of the Democratic Party. I can't deny that. He represented, I live in DeKalb County. I've lived in DeKalb County since 2004. Vernon Jones was our CEO, and he was absolutely a very good manager of the county. I've got to be fair. Let me be honest. I don't want to take that away from him, but his personal life, he was somewhat of a bully. He also was accused of having a woman tied up in his basement as a sex slave. Google it. This is not something being made up. This is a real true story. He lost when he ran for an elected office. I want to say maybe he ran for representative. Do you remember what it was, DeAndre?
He ran for sheriff.
Yeah, and he lost. He didn't win, and then he went back to his original beginning position as a Georgia State House legislator and a Georgia representative.
Which, by the way, whose seat he took was D. Dawkins Hagler, who absolutely, positively does not represent the foolishness that he's talking about now.
Right. Did she run again and win or
no? She ran for Senate, and so when she ran for Senate, he ended up running for her seat. She ran for state Senate. Yeah.
So that is a Vernon Jones story. What he is now doing is kind of shocking, but I have actually been privy to some of the comments that he's made, and he's a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and he's in a local Atlanta group where he's made some really awful comments about gays, about women, about Black women. I mean, some really horrible things. And so I feel like perhaps I have not, I know you better not live in DeKalb County and don't come and see me. Like, we have a whole nother problem. I'm going to move on from this comment. I'm going to move on. So, Charles, you talked about the fact that it was out of desperation. I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to tell you the message tonight was great. They did a great job of really pushing their message. I don't know what else to say, DeAndre. I really am. I try to be very fair. I last week, here's a funny story. Last week, a good friend of mine actually accused me of not being a Democrat. A good friend of mine said I'm an activist and I'm not a Democrat because I really will no longer be a Democrat if we lose this election. Because if we can't beat Donald Trump, we are a party that has no purpose. But I don't think that makes me any less of a Democrat. It just makes me, again, someone who is convicted of what the work is ahead of us and what we must do. And tonight, the Republican Party did what they needed to do. I really am afraid to really get on message. Now, is it going to overshadow the failures of this administration? DeAndre, I don't know, but I'm concerned. I'm afraid. I'm not going to lie and say I'm very concerned. Tonight was a home run, in my opinion.
I think it was a home run again to their base. But the thing about it is the Republican Party. Their base, I'm sorry, let me take that back. Not their base. Tonight's purpose was to make sure they secure the Trump crew. Tonight wasn't even for the Republican Party. Tonight was for the Trump crew, because in essence,
the Trumplicans.
Yeah, this wasn't, and so I think tonight was a good night for the Trump crew. But in essence, when I say good night, it was just It's not stuff that we've already heard. It's literally the person, whoever wrote everybody's speech, because clearly somebody wrote everybody's speech. It just did not. It didn't even speak to, again, the party. One person mentioned Reagan. They call it the party of Lincoln, the party of Reagan. Depends on where you stand. But only one person mentioned Reagan, and we'll talk about her in a second. But I find it interesting, again, tonight was not about the Republican Party. It made it very clear when he put his name in lights, and then it was the DNC. I'm sorry, the RNC. Whereas on the Democratic side, it was the Democratic Party, because unfortunately the Democratic Party knew we got to fix, the Democratic Party. And we're going to sell. It's the job of our party to sell. The other issue that I had with the RNC tonight was the fact that this was supposed to be. No, actually, I'm going to save that, because my main issue was with Donald Trump Jr. And so there was a part that he did not play. And so I'm going to wait till that. There's a part he didn't play that he did not do. And I think it could have been done better. So I'm going to move it on, because I know you still.
No, this is a good time to go directly to it. Because I feel like Donald Trump's speech was amazing. Again, he looked like he was on cocaine, but he gave a good speech.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. I felt like it was a missed opportunity, I think, because of the fact that, anytime that the children of the elected officials or the person is running, I don't know. I've always felt like there also should be a draw tie, there should be a drawing tie. There was even a missed opportunity in 4 years ago. There should be a drawing tie to "This is my father," and I've seen, I felt like he was another employee of Donald Trump who was speaking on Donald Trump. It wasn't his son who was speaking to speaking about his father. It was another person, a part of the administration, who did not necessarily speak to. And so when you talk about it kind of goes against what these other people were saying about Donald Trump when your own son comes in and sounds like another employee. And so that was the problem. I think that was one issue I had with Donald Trump Jr.
That's a good point. But that, DeAndre absolutely hit a home run. I agree with that 100%. Here is the question. Will the American people care? Like, DeAndre, that resonates with you. And I'm going to tell you, it resonates with me as well. What you heard from the Biden children laid out a real picture of a father. What you heard from those grandkids lay out a real picture of a granddad who, again, will answer the phone in the middle of a debate because he cares about his grandchildren. We know from Mary Trump's book that Donald Trump doesn't have a great deal of empathy and compassion, and he's not a true family man. We also know from the leaked recordings that came out this weekend from his sister, what is her name? Abigail Elizabeth Mary Florence Smith. I don't know her name. I forget her name. But the sister, who's a former federal judge, talked about her brother being a cheater and a liar and a really despicable person. Then we also, know of how he's treated Tiffany Trump, his daughter with Marla Maples. Like, we know all of these things, but do the American people actually care?
And I'll say yes. And the Republican Party does, because of the fact that, the Republican Party is about family. The Republican Party is about so again, tonight,
I agree.
I don't know. Because they're all about saving the family. The Republican Party is about the saving the modern family, being a part of the family. And so I think tonight he missed it speaking to the Republican Party. Now, he might have been speaking to the Trumpsters, but he missed it when it came to speaking to the Republican Party, because the Republican Party is about the saving and the salvation of the family and the cultivation of family. You heard it throughout the entire thing tonight. And Hershel Walker, again, he's been. Oh, let me mention that for 2 seconds. So he mentioned about.
I got a TikTok, Angela. I'm making a TikTok tonight about her. I got something for you in the morning about Hershel Walker, and I might get in trouble, so I might only be able to have the clip up for a little while. But I'm gonna tag you in it, so look when you see it. I got something for Hershel.
So let me say something that he said. It was something interesting to me. But again, that's 45 voters. Again, it's his job to also make sure that because he has to also secure and save up. He has to secure and save up the Republican Party, because too many people from the Republican Party are leaving. So he has to still try to make sure he maintains some sense of civility when it comes to the Republican Party. But let me mention something about Hershel Walker, because he said something interesting to me, because, he was toting on how he had a relationship with him for 37 years. And when he was he was the leader of a football team. Well, let's take that. Let's go down history lane for 1 second. So the history, the team he's talking about was only an exception for 3 years. It had 2 owners. He originally became an owner. He originally wanted to become an owner of it, but when he put a down payment on it, he realized that he actually wanted to, at the time, Baltimore Colts were actually out there. He wanted to actually get the Baltimore Colts. He ended up not doing it. A year later, they then went out after a 6-10 season or 6-12 season. They went out and actually got him to be an owner. He only stayed an owner for 1 year, and the team flopped. This team was only in exception for 3 years. And Hershel Walker was really the only major person after coming off the win the Heisman Trophy that actually was the one they could actually secure. So when you're talking about someone who did major business, all you did was just, again, mention another failed attempt at being a businessman. So it's like, you got to be careful about putting facts out there when people call you to the table.
DeAndre, you talked about the Republican Party. And you talked about what they believe in. DeAndre, that is not the Republican Party of 2020. That was the Republican Party of yesteryear. That was the George Bush Republican Party of 1999 and 2000, and they have lost their way since. Let me tell you something. The Republican Party that values family would not have elected a man that's undergone 3 different divorces, each time due to adultery and infidelity. They wouldn't have elected that man. The Republican Party that you speak of would not have allowed and given respect and reverence to a first lady that has questionable ethics and values. Not me. Now, I'm not downing or trying to slut shame Melania. I don't have a problem with Melania or her past or how she was able to make money and secure her bag. But those judgmental Republicans that you speak of would have. So they don't exist anymore. Donald Trump has hijacked the Republican Party so much so they couldn't even give you a platform tonight. This is truly a brand new day in a brand new age. And when Charles tells us that this is for the Mussolini playbook, you need to hear and believe it. I had a live with Tracy Bonner, and we brought in political commentator Charles Albert Johnson III. And I said, the American democracy is under attack. And he said, that's ridiculous. We're not that country. That's not in the DNA of America. But again, I know my history, Charles. You know that I do. I also know my speeches. I love good rhetoric. What Donald Trump is saying are the exact same things that were said by people like Mussolini, people like Hitler. They said these things, and they're constantly playing games with the American people. So when Donald Trump Jr. is up here talking about they're the party that's going to save your free speech, and they're the party that's going to save your rights, they're the party that's trying to tear it apart. And they've elected an authoritarian fastest leader to do it. I agree with you, Charles. I am horrifically afraid because, again, I don't think that the American people really know how dangerous Donald Trump is. And so today when he said, I want to run for 12 more years, he wasn't joking. He is serious. Yeah. And we think it's impossible. But look at how many things he's been able to do that we thought were impossible. He is able to tell people to inject disinfectant, to drink bleach, and they did it. People drank bleach because this man told them to.
But again, I think what you're speaking to, again, because I think what we don't want to run into as well is that we don't want to run into the hypocrisy of talking about the parties, because if you think about it, at the end of the day, many people can argue and say that we're not the Democratic Party that many people believe, because of the fact that we allow so many things like a Bernie Sanders to come and change some of the constructs of the Democratic Party, that we're allowing what we classify as the progressive movement to actually change the demographic of the Democratic Party. I said tonight, you said, what did you name tonight's convention? What did you name?
It was the Trump re-election convention.
Exactly. So we never said it wasn't, but there still is a Republican Party who still believes in this particular thing. And what happened was you tried to mix two ideologies into one night. You had, as earlier, like you said, because you only saw kind of a portion, at the beginning of it, you saw this Republican Party who tried to speak about family values, trying to speak of this. It's almost like watching someone who believes in something else, but because that's the person it's almost like because you own that person, you have to still try to sell them. And so what I believe was you had a Republican Party still trying to hold some sense of their own value, still while trying to sell this food. And so I think that's what you saw. You saw a Republican Party who still believes in their Republican position, and still try, because you saw it in Nikki Haley, because Nikki Haley in her speech, she said people don't realize that she was one of the individuals she took down the Confederate flag in her state. But what she said was she channeled it and she changed it and said, we changed, or we eradicated or took down, symbols. She tried to make it fit so that she still could buy the base of the Trump individuals while still holding strong to Republican values. So it's almost like you have a party fighting within themselves to still try to show, listen, we're here. But because he's our leader, we have to also represent him too. So we have to speak to them and we have to hold true to ourselves. So I believe the Republican Party is still there. The Republican Party that they speak of is still there. It's just unfortunately the people who elected him were not the Republican Party.
Here's two quotes of the night. Democrats want to fall in love with the person that they elect to be president. But Republicans want to fall in line. And that's the difference. We Democrats, we sit here and we debate about the likability of a candidate. We debate about, them not being the ideal Kamala, we want Kamala to be. And we get all caught up in the notion of we must love our candidate and we must just, everything about them has to be so perfect and wonderful for our ideals. Whereas Republicans, they go for someone whoever it is, they fall in line, they vote in line, and they proceed. Democrats are cats, hard to herd, and those Republicans are dogs that follow behind their master without any type of dissension in the ranks. And that makes a difference, and it may very well make another difference in this upcoming election. I pray that it doesn't.
But are we seeing that?
Vermont said, how can we rally folks to get up and go vote? It's going to take a whole lot of issues and a lot of effort. And one thing that has to happen is we have to find a way to stop massive voter suppression, both from inside the community and outside the community. A prime example of voter suppression is the agenda for Black America that Ice Cube released this past weekend. The same agenda that had no input from any Black woman, period, that had no input from anybody with any kind of relevancy to politics, period. Yet and still it's getting tons of play on things like this stupid Breakfast Club and stupid Black media outlets that want to give this give this agenda power. Who is Ice Cube? Who is Ice Cube to say I'm going to create the Black agenda and you better follow it? But yet and still, that's what we're debating. That's what we're debating.
Well, to charge that, because I have something to answer that to Charles's statement. I'm gonna take that first and then go back. How can you? Because what he'll do, Charles, is then they'll throw and turn around and talk about gay marriage. And what they'll do is they'll throw the rhetoric out there that we're trying to take away the rights of take away the sanctity of marriage, and that the family is being broken by. So they'll find a way to twist it and turn it. So they don't really care how many times you've been divorced and all the other stuff. At the end of the day, they'll try to find the rhetoric that talks about what destroys families. They won't talk about how Jerry Falwell just literally resigned from Liberty University. They won't talk about that. They won't talk about that's destroying all the saints, all the things that, and you also realize that the people
having threesomes with a man and his wife,
and the people who you hear about breaking, ironically enough, the people you hear about breaking the sanctities of marriage and all other stuff are mostly the Republicans in the Senate and the Republicans in the House. And so they won't talk about those. They're going to use rhetoric that's actually going to turn around and try to throw off that. As far as Candace Owens, the fact that she was even begging for, a spot was absolutely asinine. Like, why? So that should also show you.
I got something for her too.
What's that?
I got something for Candace Owens. I got something for Tim Scott. I got something for Hershel Walker. I got something for them coming up. I got something for all of them.
But again, I will not disagree with you when I say that at the end of the day, the message got out. I won't disagree with you when I say at the end of the day, okay. And so I get that. So the question I have for both you and Zach is, for the most part, but is that fully true for the Republican Party? Because if it's almost as if we're seeing. Yes, most definitely. I don't think, and I think that I find it interesting though. They tried their best to play to a degree what the Democrats did to try to bring a couple of compelling stories. Like even the gentleman, I believe, who came from Cuba. I don't necessarily think that was a really compelling story. I didn't feel that one. The young lady who talked about, getting the. Talk about that, because I'm curious.
No, I guess I'm gonna put him in my mix too.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna stay up all night to make this TikTok. You'll see. I gotta put in all the right names, but I agree. Terrence Williams has a place in this TikTok too.
So their approach to try to hit again the everyday person. It didn't. You kind of see they were trying to take little pieces from the Dems. They're not doing a whole lot, but you can tell they were trying to take a few. Oh, damn, that's horrible. But again, and I tried not, and for me, like I don't even tell people because, of course, Liberty University is where my doctorate came from, but I tried to repress that. Anyway, stout. Well, but again, she, it's just that it's an interesting. We knew, but the thing about it is, at the end of the day, we knew what we were coming into. So tonight was just more so to have a conversation about it, but we knew what we were getting, and we knew what was going to be said. We knew that it wasn't. We knew it was going to be everything that we're saying right now. We knew at the end of the day they were going to speak their language.
I did not know it would be such well-written speeches. I'm not going to lie to you, DeAndre. I did not expect that. I'm going to say that I really I don't give anybody listen, Donald Trump has delivered some of the worst speeches in the history of American rhetoric of any president alive or dead. I don't even know if Zachary Tyler ever even had a chance to make a speech. But I would dare say that even his speeches were probably better than what Donald Trump has gotten up on podiums and said as he's addressed the American people. But again, tonight, I heard powerful rhetoric that truly did stay on message and hit the points that needed to be hit to bring in moderates and people who are on the fence. Mm-hmm. I do believe that after last week, and I think after this week, you're going to have very few Americans who are undecided. I also believe that we're going to have a very good picture on Monday of how this race shapes up in those battleground states. And it's going to take a lot of work on behalf of a lot of people to now win this election. Mm-hmm. The fact that Joe Biden is unable to really get out there and do the type of campaigning that Trump is getting ready to do, I do believe that's going to have an impact. I'm also afraid that the Trump war chest, although the Biden money is getting bigger, it still pales in comparison to what Trump has for the advertisements. And Trump is willing to go so low and lie so much in his ads that really preys on the insecurities and the mental inability of the average American who wants to support him anyway to think clearly. I'm not going to say I'm not concerned. I am concerned.
So let me ask you this question. So it's two parts. Number one, do you think that, because, tonight, originally they said they were not necessarily going to, they weren't necessarily going to discuss or try to tackle COVID. They originally said they weren't going to. Unfortunately, tonight they hit it hard and they came heavy. Do you, and they really didn't, but unfortunately they didn't do a good job with expressing. Do you think that in any sense could potentially cause an issue for them? Because they put it out there, but didn't provide anything like what they've done to help it or to make it better.
The Democratic Party is going to have to take a hard-nosed stance and really do they have got to highlight the fact that Donald Trump has killed Americans. They can't play the game. They can't be politically correct. They can't dance around the issue. And that's what you saw a lot of very nice speak last week that we thought was very effective. But it was said earlier they didn't hit hard. Actually, in the live that I did earlier with 5 guys, one of the guys, CJ, said they didn't hit hard enough. And I didn't agree with him per se, but now I look back on it, they didn't hit hard enough. Donald Trump has killed Americans, and that has to be driven home. So I think you may have even said last week that you wanted, you like the positive spin of it. Donald Trump is going to go dark. Donald Trump is going to go negative. Donald Trump is going to hit hard in a very low place. We can't be high anymore. We can't fly above that. We've got to meet him where he is and tear him down with the facts. COVID-19, let me tell you something. When they released that CBS poll this weekend, where the majority of Republicans do not feel as though the COVID-19 death toll is too high, it tells you that they are brainwashed and they buy everything this man says, hook, line, and sinker. We are definitely we're not out of the woods at all. These polls can change overnight, and I'm afraid that we may very well see that tomorrow.
And I agree with her. The statement, is it Mackey?
Yeah, McKee.
I actually agree with that. I do agree with that. I think that he's going to have to be told, because he can't go too far left, because at the end of the day, if he goes too far left, he's going to lose him. He has to stay. But I will also say I was very, it was weird for me. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you. It was weird for me for them, really.
Oh, Lamont always disagrees with me.
Because he normally does, which is weird.
He always disagrees. He's Lamont.
I think for me, though, it was weird the fact that they didn't necessarily, acknowledge the fact. They didn't, pay respect to those families who had passed on. Like, they didn't acknowledge the fact that we've lost 170,000 plus people. I also found it interesting that President Obama, for some reason, came up again. But I also found it interesting that they kept blaming Joe Biden for things that he couldn't even do. Like, he was the vice president. There's something like, he failed HBCUs and he did. No, he didn't fail. So I just find it interesting that they tried to. But again, it's going, as you just said, it's going to be up to the Democratic Party to dispel and actually continue to put the narrative out there. Because again, if they don't correct it, people are going to drink the Kool-Aid of what they hear. Now,
it's not just the Democratic Party; it's our job too. The fate of America cannot rest in the hands of the Biden-Harris campaign. The fate of America cannot rest in the hands of the Democratic Party, because unfortunately, Black people are being killed every single day. example being seen in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where an officer gunned down a black man going to the car with his children. So this is personal for every single one of us. And the rhetoric that Donald Trump has put out in the world, his vow to support these types of police officers who are killing black men with no remorse, we have to take responsibility to ensure that we're getting the right message out there. Let me tell you what that means. That means I'm going to sit my ass down after this live, and I'm going to write Facebook posts, Instagram posts, Twitter posts, and I am going to flood the world with my opinion and my truth. And I'm going to be committed to attacking every single moron out there who says something that is wrong, inaccurate, or that's no fact, because there's too much at stake. I am fighting for my motherfucking life. I am fighting for my life because I don't believe that I can survive another 4 years of Donald Trump. I really don't think that any black man in this country or any black woman in this country or any black child in this country can endure 4 more years of his rule. Mm-hmm. Literally, we have Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the bench with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, the exact same cancer that killed Congressman John Lewis. There is no way we can endure another Trump presidency. We have got to do our part. We have to do every single thing that we can. And that means we're posting. That means that we're combating the nonsense. That means that we're going to our uneducated friends and family members and we are making them feel absolutely ashamed to not vote. We are hitting it hard, and we're tearing down people like Ice Cube and Charlamagne the Gadfly and Puff Daddy and all these morons out there that are trying to affect the black vote in a negative way, because we absolutely cannot afford to lose this election. And once we get Biden and Harris in office, we then hold them to the highest level of accountability.
So the question then becomes, how do we now get to a place where, because we still have those group of individuals. Am I stuck? Am I lost?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm frozen. Okay, how do we get? What is going on my screen? How do we get to a place? I don't know what's going on my screen right now. How do we get to a place where those people that we are talking about, those individuals who are still stuck, those black, those millennials, those individuals. Since we've heard night one, clearly they're still, they're not drinking the Biden-Harris Kool-Aid still. Obviously, they're not going to the Republican Party side. How do we have that conversation with them to again begin to hopefully say, listen, I know what you're feeling, but we still need to make sure you're hearing the rhetoric. How do we start speaking to them? Because we've heard 4 days of the Democratic Party, but now we're hearing Republican Party, and they're not sold on either way. How do we begin to still speak to them?
That's right. Like Laquita says, we have to approach them with strategy, but we also have to approach them with honest talk. So here's an example, DeAndre. One of my old students who I really care a great deal about, he's a young man, young white man, military. I want to say that David might be 28 years old. He's a huge Trump supporter. I have been peppering him with facts, peppering him with honest opinion, peppering him with what the real news states. When I see a Trump supporter, I ask, why are you supporting Trump? And then when they tell me why, like David said, because of the military, I gave him facts on the military. I may not change David's opinion. I may not change David's mind, and I may not change David's heart, but I will know that I have done my part to really meet the requirements of just spreading the truth, because that is all I can do. And I think that's what we do. So when we talk about what we do is we hit these Trump supporters with the truth, period. Bottom line. And that goes for every single person that we talk to and we mobilize with. That's what we have to do.
So I want to read this. So someone's watching my live. I want to read this. He said a few takeaways. Number one.
And I apologize for saying MF. I usually don't curse on lives, but I really couldn't hold back, and I had to say it.
He could say that. I can't quite say that. But a couple of things. He says, number one, Atlantans, and more specifically the Cobb County residents, disavowed the views made by Vernon Jones this evening. His barbecue invite was already in jeopardy, but we've now decided to cancel all future invites. Number two, I'd like to know why the citizens invited to the White House were less than 6 feet from each other, were not wearing masks, and included no people of color. Third.
For his number 2 point, COVID-19 is a hoax. They don't believe it's real anyway. And if they do get it, that they can go and drink bleach.
Number 3, the word socialism was thrown around a lot this evening. Socialism simply says that the means of production is owned by the people and everyone is on a level playing field. This removes class distinctions based on ownership. Capitalism is why the minimum wage in Georgia is still $5 in 2020. Capitalism is inherently exploitative and unstable and creates rampant abuse. Number 4, the amount of privilege from the overall representation of this convention was startling.
Donald Trump does not have a diverse cabinet, and he's not going to have a diverse cabinet. And you're not going to also see a diverse segment of America being represented in his re-election committee. So I don't think that because exactly as Aquita said, look at this. They just don't give a fox. They just don't give a fox. That's not something that they care about.
Which is funny because of the fact that they said, and I quote, tonight, that anybody is welcome into our party. Those were exact words they said tonight. Everybody's welcome to my party. But tonight, they were very clear with painting a picture that, black people don't live in the suburbs. Black people are, black lives really don't matter.
Black people, not black, but poor black people and certain kinds of black people. They only want Tim Scott can live in their suburbs.
Yeah.
That's what's okay.
I still heard black people. all I heard was black people. I heard that, y'all out there rioting, y'all out there, that's not, those are not Americans. It's almost like every 2 seconds if people just didn't see, you could read through like they didn't care what they meant. They literally showed a video showing, they didn't show not one video of a white. They didn't show Charlottesville. They didn't show which happened under him. They didn't show, white protesters. No, they showed the black people, and these are the individuals. These people are dangerous. So it's just funny. It's just so interesting. That tonight we said you're going to start seeing blatant racism at its best, and tonight we saw it, and so it was what it was.
So Isaiah said that we have to flip the Senate, and that is true. And there's a lot of work to be done. So if you look as an example, again, what can we do? In Georgia, we need Jon Ossoff is a solid candidate, but I don't think that he may be the strongest person to beat David Perdue. Nonetheless, we need to put in an investment of time and energy on that campaign, and even more time and investment on the campaign of Raphael Warnock. We have work
or the other people in that race
against,
because I want to because that's the other thing. Like there's a people that sold Raphael Warnock as the candidate. There are still other people in that race, technically more qualified people, and so I need to. We have to do a better job also when we make statements like that. We have
Raphael Warnock is a candidate who should be endorsed.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that.
There you have the problem. Because Raphael Warnock has the name recognition, and the other black people and the other Democrats like Lieberman in that race need to get out of the race.
So
get out of the race.
What makes him
get out of the race?
What makes him the most qualified candidate, other than the fact that he is the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church? When you have a former U.S.
president.
No, you have a former U.S. attorney who is on there. You have former elected officials who are running for those seats. So
Auburn has not done the groundwork to be known in this state. Therefore, he is not a qualified candidate for that opportunity.
Nor has he.
Let me tell you something. Your president was a celebrity. He was a reality TV star, and he won president. We are in a different age, and name recognition matters. We don't have time for unknown man from Augusta to lay down a foundation to get elected. We are fighting for our life.
But that doesn't necessarily mean we pick and choose just because your name is out there. Because
he ain't gonna win.
At the end
all
of the
he's going to do is pull away votes that could go to Warnock. Warnock is going to get the majority of votes, period.
But again, that doesn't necessarily mean just because he has the right name recognition does not mean that he's the best candidate to be for. I just never been that person to sip that kind of Kool-Aid. Hence the reason why we have Jon Ossoff as the nominee, because he was not the best candidate in that race.
He wasn't the best candidate.
And so because of that,
the people put there.
Yeah, so we keep running into these positions to where, because again, at the end of the day, we're drinking the Kool-Aid of a particular person who said that he was the best candidate. We didn't, there were people that we're sipping the Kool-Aid because there's nothing to show me that he is the most viable candidate in that race, and I know him.
DeAndre.
So you're not telling me.
I am not saying that I have not drank any of Raphael Warnock's Kool-Aid, period. What I am saying is that Raphael Warnock has the name recognition in this race at this time to be competitive against Kelly Loeffler and Doug Collins. Tarver does not have that recognition. In addition, to win a race in Georgia that is going to be as Kelly Loeffler is one of the richest women in the world. Let me finish. Her husband owns the International Stock Exchange, and he is the CEO and chairman of the New York Stock Exchange. This woman has more money, and her family has more money and connections than most people in the world will ever have. To have even a fighting chance against her, you have to bring in money and name recognition, and Raphael Warnock does that. I am not saying that he's the best qualified. I never say he's the best qualified in terms of what he's done, but I am saying he's the best qualified in terms of having a real chance of being competitive in this race. And again, we need to flip the Senate, and you won't do that when nobody from nowhere pops up on the ballot.
Well, I have to greatly disagree with you on that regard, is because of the fact that if we put that same energy into like an Ed Tarver, because of the fact because here's the thing, who was David Perdue before he ran? No one knew a David Perdue. No one knew it.
It was his money, DeAndre. This man was highly connected. When you come from the Purdue chicken farmers of Georgia, and your cousin is Sonny Perdue, the former governor of Georgia, who is now the commissioner of agriculture, you automatically walk in the door with opportunity and privilege and access. And that's what I'm saying makes a difference in politics right now. Is that how it should be? No. Is it how it is? Yes.
This becomes again, at the end of the day, now mind you, everybody who is saying, I want you all also understand. Now, granted, I vote Democrat, and more than likely I'm going to obviously vote for the candidates at hand. The purpose of this platform and this discussion is for us to be able to have opposing views. And it's also our job to make sure we're educating each other on the issues. And that sense is this: at the end of the day, they are not the best, and we have to start calling people out again. I'm calling the Democratic Party to the table and say, listen, we have to do a better job. He was not widely known by Republicans because he really didn't do it. He was not wide known. If anything, he had a connection to his cousin, but he was not necessarily wide known around Republicans. That was not the case.
He wasn't out of the race and wait and go for something else. Let me tell you something, DeAndre, I don't have a problem supporting Ed Tarver. I have researched Ed Tarver, and I actually like a lot that he has done. And I would love to see him have a statewide office right here in Georgia. When Stacey Abrams runs for governor, there will be a place for a lot of Democrats on that ticket to have a strong chance of winning. But if we go down in flames at this upcoming Senate election, it's going to set back a lot of momentum that we have in the state. We need to win one of these 2 Senate seats. And we only have 2 people that have a chance: Jon Ossoff, who is clearly the only Democratic nominee, and Raphael Warnock. Regardless of what we think about it, we have to be honest and realistic about our chances of taking back this country.
So here's my last question to that regard. So if in essence, let's say that we're putting out there, okay, we have to vote, we have to do everything else, that one of those candidates is doing a job with earning or putting out there why, Jon Ossoff was not my candidate of choice. But one thing I will say is Jon Ossoff is out there trying to let people, putting himself out there. Raphael is not. So he has to do a better job with getting people to understand why he needs to be in there. And that's why he's running behind.
And you know what, DeAndre, I agree with you 110%. Raphael Warnock has, in his campaign, they are not doing a good job at the moment. Can't say that because I've argued that with people in private, like, where are the commercials? Where are the ads? What are you doing? I'm very disappointed. I agree with this. I can't deny you on that.
And we can't. And so for that reason, it's going to be kind of hard for us to do a hard sell because we don't have a candidate who's actually, again, we'll sell it, but it's a hard sell when you're not out there selling yourself. At least Jon Ossoff is, and guess what else is happening? The Republicans are killing Ossoff too. So he's getting free publicity from, because we see bad us off on Instagram or Facebook. We see it on the websites, and we see it on the TV. So they know at the end of the day, like, yo, this dude he's bad.
I only see it on WSB TV when I watch the news, because on my Facebook, I don't follow Republicans, and on Instagram, I don't have any Republican friends. So those are the type of ads, DeAndre, they don't pop up on my.
Well, unfortunately, because of the fact that I have to dibble and dabble in certain areas, I see it. But I just find it interesting that, again, we have to, if we're going to do this whole pushing behind a candidate, we need that candidate also to step up, because we're about to go into September next week.
DeAndre, you are correct. I mean, I give you full credit for that. And that's a really good question that we need to probably, I'm going to take it upon myself to ask the Raphael Warnock campaign where they are, where's the work, where's the progress, before I volunteer my time to help that campaign, which is one of the things that we have to do to strategize. I think that we've had such a robust conversation, as Melissa and Jamel's big boss would say, robust conversation. I do regret saying the MF word. So I'll probably be deleting this whole thread because Andre made me say MF. I have never said MF.
No. Don't put that on.
Mama is going to watch this, and then she is going to be disappointed. And she's going to say, I'm so disappointed in you for cursing in front of everybody and letting everybody know that you curse, because people do not supposed to know that you curse.
I wish you would put that on me.
Deborah's going to be so disappointed.
Demonic spirit of confusion. You will not put that on me, saying that I caused you to cuss. You will not. You spirit of confusion. You will not. Not today. You're being used by the Republican Party, telling lies and spewing lies.
It'll be a whole thread of people saying, Zach, take this down. Both of my sisters will say it. My nieces will say it. Everybody's going to say, oh, Zach, that just wasn't becoming, you were unprofessional. So we will see how long this endures. And let me tell you, Lamont says, what should we take away from discussion today? You should take away the fact that, number one, Donald Trump is a more formidable foe than Zachary Kirk has given him credit for in the past. And I own up to it and I accept it. This is a real election. It's a real fight. Number two, take away from this that we have work to do regardless of how the rest of this week works compared to last week. We have to stand firm in our support of the Biden-Harris ticket, and we have to do more than what we had planned to do previously. So whatever we plan to do, we must double that work and double that effort. It needs to be different for everybody. I am going to write on my Facebook page my commitment to this work at the end of this convention or at the beginning of next week and make it known. What am I going to do to support the Biden-Harris ticket and the whole entire push to change America in 2020? And then I will also, after we elect Biden-Harris, talk about how I will hold them accountable. But that is the takeaway. That is a big part of the work that has to be done. And we have to do it. We all have a role to play, and it's time to go and get it done.
I think, Lamont, as you're talking about, can the next discussion talk about this work? I think once the convention of the Republican Party is over, I then think we can actually start talking about the actual work. Because of the fact that one of the things that you don't want to do is you never give your enemies the upper hand. So I do think that once we see what they're talking about, what they're doing, we can talk about it. We know the work, but these conversations about, unfortunately, foolishness.
Let me go ahead and say my cousin is here. So she's already heard. My cousin Belinda already heard I'm cussing on live. Belinda, I said MF. So if you've gotten the text and notification that say Zach is on live cursing, I am. I apologize to everyone. See the word, I knew the word was gonna get out fast, and I said MF on live.
Well, that's your fault. You should.
It's because of DeAndre made me say it.
No. It's because it's called self-control. Self-control. You grown, sir, and you older than me. So you older than me, and I can't convince you to do nothing. If anything, you a bad influence on me. A horrible influence on me. So don't you be out here talking about I did nothing. See,
I may have been a bad influence, but guess what? No one is a worse influence than Donald J. Trump, who told the American people to inject disinfectant. And on that note, join us tomorrow as we discuss night number 2.
Yes, self-control.
Trump National Convention.
The Trump National Convention, right? And hopefully my camera won't die. Angie, I love you too.
You see what
but sir, yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am very much so.
All right, everybody. We will join you tomorrow for part 2 of the Trump show.
Yes, Lord.